We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
Swinging a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup for the lead. Yes!
Iverson, wow, what a fake off Daniels as he broke his ankles and got all the way to the cup.
We're back, Eric. If opening day is Christmas Day, then what's today?
Thanksgiving, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Thankful
maybe,
baseball's
right?
back, yeah, and we got the true holiday, kind of in the background looming, so we're getting there.
Yeah, man. I'm just excited, man. I was putting out something earlier today, right? It's a busy sports day, right? You got the Phillies, you got the Flyers, you got the Union. Villanova's playing UConn tonight. It's a busy day, but man, we got baseball back. It's good to have baseball back. The ASMR videos of the pitchers and catchers when that was coming out, man, you almost wanted to just put that on in the background, just let it just run. Just that pop of the glove, man. It's after the way that the season ended last year, man. It's just good to have it back.
Oh, it's great. I know. I've probably spent more time on Twitter just watching videos of and you can't even really see, but all the beat writers are down there and they're saying, it's Harper Wheeler or Nola, whoever he's facing in live batting practice. I'm like, I can't really see who it is, but I don't care. I'll watch it. It's I've spent a lot of time just getting hyped. I'm so ready for baseball to be back.
It is just exciting, man. And the craziest thing is like it wasn't a super eventful offseason, right? They make the Nola deal early. They've got the position battles we've talked about in the offseason a little bit. There's not a ton of position battles. There is, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. There is still a lot of big name free agents out there that haven't been signed, which is kind of surprising. Anything strike you as surprising from the offseason now that we're kind of full circle back in spring training?
Not really, no. I mean, I think going into it, like even in the last the end of the season press conference with Dave Dombrowski, he basically said, they're going to look to make upgrades, but I think that's what happens when you have a team that's good, right? You don't need to make the significant upgrades, which is a good problem to have. I mean, we've been spoiled because the last few off seasons has always been a target, right? We had, going back to 2019, we had Harper, we had the Wheeler, we had the Romuto trade. 2 seasons ago, we had the, Castellanos and Schwarber big deals and all that. And last year, obviously with Trey Turner. This year kind of going in, it's like, well, there's not really anyone we need to target because we have basically really the only kind of question I would say is, kind of center field. And that's really, it's Rojas's job to lose, I feel like. But it's a good problem to have, I think, where, you don't need to make a big signing. So the big signing was Nola. And I think going into the offseason, that was my top priority, bringing him back. Because, you see these guys who are still out there who would be his replacements. Realistically, I know they were in on Yamamoto. But it sounds like he never really was serious about coming here. Ohtani, there was no way they were going to go in there. But, I mean, pitching-wise, it's just like, I mean, Nola was one of the top guys on the in free agency. So I'm glad we got him back. A couple little, outlier moves. And that's what you need. You got to build depth. You got to, get these fringe guys. That's what's going to help. We have our stars now. We don't need any more. But so I'm not really surprised.
Do you make anything? I was really kind of pleasantly surprised at the news that came out about the money that they did offer Yamamoto, to say like, hey, they're willing to spend, like they're willing to put the money out there, which, makes me then, kind of side-eyed look at the guys that are still out there and go like, are they willing to kind of throw money, it would purely be a luxury move. But like guys, a guy that we've kind of texted back and forth with Montgomery, that would absolutely be a luxury move. But like, is that something where, it gets later on in spring training, he's not signed, Boris is looking for a team for him that they give him like a 1+1, like a 1-year deal with a 1-year option that gives him the opportunity maybe to go back out in a free agent net, not that he really needs to prove anything.
Mhm.
He's got a really good track record, but looking at that going, maybe that's, they kind of strike while the iron's hot, while they know that he's maybe, running out of options, but doesn't want to, miss the beginning part of opening day and not have a team.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think that's basically what Dombrowski's been saying, kind of this whole offseason is, if prices drop and they find something in their price range, then yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happened. And going back to what you said about offering, they're obviously willing to spend the money. I mean, especially now, Yamamoto is kind of a crazy deal because you never get a 25-year-old free agent with his potential. So I could see shelling out the money there. For a guy like Montgomery, I wouldn't mind, like you said, a 1-on-1 deal or, even 2 guaranteed. Like, I mean, it would bolster the rotation. We already, I think, have one of the top 5 rotations in baseball. That's not just my opinion. I've been seeing that's been posted. Like, all media outlets are praising the Phillies rotation.
True.
But there's always ways to make improvements, right? I mean, adding the depth that we added this year, it's no one's going to be in young contention from any of those moves.
Right.
You need to do it. And, adding Montgomery would, I think, give us the best, if not second best rotation in baseball.
I mean, can you imagine going into a playoff series, like a short series, and you're going to line up some combination of Wheeler, Nola, Montgomery, Suarez, like you're getting 4 deep before you even hit the guys that you question.
Right.
And that gives you a lot of flexibility, like they had in the NLCS after, when they were able to bring Suarez in, late and, close that game out. It would truly give them the best and probably deepest rotation and give them the most credible way to compete with the Braves. Because I really like that lineup with the Braves is wild. It is wild to see the numbers that they put up, but you can see that like it, for whatever reason, it doesn't ever translate in the playoffs. They can play really, really well and put up gaudy stats during the season, but like postseason comes around, short series, and they couldn't hang with the Phillies, and it was really, really not surprising to see. I'm really, really optimistic at where this team can be, at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it. I know, 2 years ago, obviously made it to the World Series. Last year, we were 1 win away, devastating fashion to lose. But this team's good. I mean, I think the way they went out, I think, kind of left a bitter taste in everyone's mouth. So I think everyone's like, they stink because they folded in games 6 and 7 back at home again. And it's true, they did. They fell apart. They didn't hit and all that. But this team is really good, and I think that's what we have to remember, right? They did beat the Braves in the playoffs 2 seasons in a row. The Braves are kind of like becoming the Sixers of the MLB, losing in the second round every year. But I can't imagine that Braves team is so good. I don't think we can just constantly like rely on them collapsing again. Like they're a really, really, I don't like to admit it, but they're a really, really, really good team. So you have to basically get better, right, with your competition.
You also can't count.
Definitely do it.
You also can't count, like you can't count on the Dodgers not falling apart in the playoffs too. Like they right. in the last 2 playoff runs, they really have had the fortunate situation of having to not have to face both of those teams. Because if they've got to play back-to-back series where they got to beat the Braves and the Dodgers. Now looking at the way that the Dodgers roster is constructed with Ohtani, you're gonna, in my mind, that almost makes the Montgomery move less of a luxury and more of a necessity, because you might have one of these playoff runs where you're going to try to get to the World Series. You're going to end up running into both of those teams, and you're going to need the pitching depth. You're going to need to be 4 deep with really, really talented guys in order to be able to compete, because, Ohtani's probably not going to pitch this year.
Right.
But you're going to need the arms to be able to shut down those lineups and, not have a situation like you had last year where you pull Christopher Sanchez early in a start, and then you're going into your bullpen early, and then you're searching for arms late, and your bullpen falls apart, and subsequently the series falls apart. I think the Montgomery, that to me, now that we're talking about it, makes the Montgomery move, less of a luxury, more of a necessity.
Yeah, I definitely, I mean, having that would, like I said, make this rotation, even better, obviously. And it really adds flexibility too, because I know they like using Ranger in multiple roles in the playoffs, right? They've used him in relief and everything like that too. So that gives you some more wiggle room there. So yeah, I mean, I would absolutely love it. It's one of those things, and all these guys that are still out there, all these free agents are all Boris clients, right? So he's behind the scenes orchestrating things, and I don't know how much of the Phillies being serious about it is him blowing smoke to try to get other teams to get involved, because hey, it's like, look, here's a big market team, they have money, they might pounce, you guys might want to get in there quick. So I don't really know what's going to happen with it. I mean, it would be a pleasant surprise. But as of right now, I don't see it happening unless his price drops. But the thing is with these pitchers, especially, like, I mean, they can do their offseason, programs. He's obviously throwing and everything. It's not like he's just sitting around. But not facing real live hitting and stuff, like I think the longer you wait, whether you're a position player or a pitcher heading into spring training, like you lose a step.
Yeah.
And I think these guys probably are just like, all right, come on, like I want to sign somewhere. So maybe eventually their prices will go down a little bit.
I feel like at some point they're going to get antsy. They're going to get antsy to get into somebody's system. And I'm looking at the guys that are remaining and just the starting pitchers, right? Some of the guys not so surprising, but like guys like Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery are guys that like were the hot names, and then they're still kind of sitting out there as spring training rolls around. But I think it's doing them a disservice to put them on the same list with guys like Michael Lorenzen and Mike Clevenger and Noah Syndergaard and Vince Velasquez.
But
a
lot of ex-Phillies.
You're right, but there are guys on there that like I'd be interested in giving them a spring training invite at this point. Like let them come in and pitch, guys like on the back end, guys that I wouldn't feel like there's anything but upside. But like if you brought in a guy like Jake Odorizzi, if you brought in a guy like Johnny Cueto, I know they're experienced guys, but like if you bring those guys in and those are guys that you can get something out of, part of me makes me feel like that it might be something worth rolling the dice.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the state of Major League Baseball right now, right? Like you can never have enough starting pitching. So it's whether you see all these teams, how many have to use openers now? Like there's just not enough starting pitching out there for all these teams to have a solid 1 through 5 rotation, right? That's why the Phillies are in a really good spot, because
Right.
Walker, while he struggled last year, still is a competent major league pitcher, right? And Christopher Sanchez showed he could be a competent major league pitcher. So we have that luxury right now. But adding depth, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the more you can add and make competition in spring training, especially if there's no risk to it, bring in everyone you can.
Right. Did you see the video of Joey Votto?
I didn't hear the audio. I was kind of scrolling through and then I got sidetracked. Was it him going through the car wash?
He was driving through the car wash going, this is not what spring training should be. And part of me is like, please just somebody sign him. Like
Mhm.
somebody just bring him in, let him play. He's a guy to me that's like just really good for the game. So I
Mhm.
feel
Oh,
like
he's funny.
someone has maybe some roster flexibility. Bring him in, let him be in spring training, get some audio. But he's just a guy that's good for the game.
Mhm.
Let's talk about a guy that they did bring in, right? The addition of Whit Merrifield. To me seems like a really, really solid way to bolster the bench, and gives you a ton of position flexibility coming off the bench.
Yeah, that was probably one of the better moves I think they could have made, especially at the price, right? I mean, I think it's 7 million plus 1 million for a buyout, or you could get 2 years for 8 or whatever. The price is great. His versatility is great. I originally wasn't sure if he would have been on the Phillies roster because he wants that. He kind of basically said he wanted a full-time playing job, and the Phillies are obviously not going to be able to offer him that with you have Stott at second base and probably some variation of Brandon Marsh mostly in left field. So you're not really he's not getting everyday playing time, but ultimately he said, I want to do it. Yeah, he's 35. He wants to win. This is a good opportunity for him. And I think we'll see him play, anywhere between, 80 and 90, 95 games because of how many different positions he can play. So he's versatile. He can give other guys rest. And he, what's great about him, and it's what this team needs. He makes contact with the ball. His strikeout rate is so low over the course of his career on a team that we know, love this lineup, but what's their downfall? And we saw it in the playoffs last year. They strike out and chase a ton of pitches. He makes contact. He can work a count. He still has speed, even though he's 35. So I think overall, just a great signing in the fact that, you didn't have to, you're paying, money wise, it's a good deal. What he offers is a good deal. And the fact that he's willing to take kind of that, role player role is a no brainer to me.
Yeah. I think he sees this roster and says, with the amount of time that he's had to play in the last couple seasons, he's not going to have to play nearly as much, which may give him as an older, as an aging player who's still productive, gives him the opportunity to maybe be more productive in those moments. And, you're talking about a guy, who, and I'm going to pull this stat from Scott Lauber, most hits since 2017, Freddie Freeman has 1165, right? But Whit Merrifield is I shouldn't say right behind him. He's like 100 hits behind him at 1,096. So, he's like you said, a guy that makes great contact with the ball, guy who's going to put the ball in play. And when I saw this stat and I looked at last season, I'm looking at that game 7 where you got the bases loaded and you bring Rojas up, who was in the postseason batted under 100, couldn't make contact with the ball at all. Now listen, no one was making contact with the ball at that point.
Right.
But you're looking at a spot where like that would be the perfect opportunity to bring a guy like this in who can give you the position flexibility. Yeah, it's early in the game. Yeah, you give up the defense, but that was a game-changing at-bat that could have put them on a trajectory to win that game, win that series, and go to the World Series. So I think like to me, I'm with you. This was a no-brainer, and not for nothing, but Trey Turner's on that list right behind him at third with 1,089 hits. So you got two guys, and I think that's another thing I want to talk about. I think you're going to see a better version of Trey Turner. You're going to see probably Trey Turner get back to the Trey Turner of old. I think you saw a lot of pressing early on. You're going to see him come into the season not having coming off the World Baseball Classic. You're going to see. I really think that the difference in him starting the season early is going to be huge for this lineup because you can now slot him up at the top of the lineup with Schwarber and be able to get guys on base. You're going to see Schwarber have opportunities, in the third, the sixth, the seventh to be able to get up there and get at bats with guys on and really start to drive the ball in.
Yeah, that's actually as you were saying about Trey Turner being up on that list. That was the exact thought that was coming through my head. That we're going to get a full season of better Trey. Even if, like, I mean, just he was abysmal for so much of the beginning of last season. Even if he's halfway better than that, I mean, that's huge, right? I mean, because he was torrent in August and September and even through most of the playoffs. But getting just a full season of him he obviously, every player goes through slumps, so he'll have his ups and downs. But if he hits, if he can get back to hitting in the 290s, right, and just shows a little bit of that power that he had last year, but when he was starting to drive the ball out and start hitting some home runs, I think that's a thing we forget about a lot too. That we're getting him back. We're going to get a full season of Harper, right? So there's a lot of wins I think were left on the table last year because we had these superstars who either weren't playing because of injury or weren't performing up to what they could. So I think that's something like that we forget about too, where we're going to get full seasons of these guys, and it's just getting them started early is going to be huge. And I would love to get a season where we start out somewhat hot and don't have to end up, turning it on in June and winning 20 games in June to get back to 500. Like, just give me a season where or even if we're 500 through April and May, like that's fine. Then go on your tear, but don't give me this like 8 games below 500 nonsense.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think the way that we've seen this team start, I think it would be nice to be able to kind of get to June and July and not have to feel this panic of like preying on like you're saying, preying on this long extended win streak where you got to rip 10-12 games just to be in the conversation. As far as roster construction, I know Adam's asking about Scott Kingery. Is this the year? Is this finally the year that he maybe secures a bench role? We know that there's no spots available as far as the starting lineup. Or is this just the year that Scott Kingery just fades into, Philly's oblivion?
I hate to say it because, I think when we all watched him kind of start to come up, we all had great expectations for him. And he seems like a nice guy and everything. But I feel like now with the addition of Merrifield, like he's Scott Kingery. It would take a lot of injuries.
Just older, experienced, and much better.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think he's what Scott Kingery could have been, but unfortunately, it just fizzled out. There's so much depth in the organization right now where I just can't see. Like, there's going to be position battles throughout spring training just to get some guys on the bench, and I think our bench is also deeper. So I just think Kingery got with the Merrifield addition, got moved even further down on the potential bench depth chart there. So I don't foresee it happening anytime soon. And honestly, if it does happen, that means some other things have gone terribly wrong. So no offense to Scott Kingery, but I don't think he should be on there.
I hear you. I'm kind of with you on it. To me, this is the time to just let them fade, let them play the season out in AAA. And then you just move on from, but that was talk about a real swing and miss, man. They really kind of banked on what they saw early, gave him that contract, and it just never manifested itself into anything close to what they thought. Because originally the thought was that it would be like a Dustin Pedroia light, that he could be that middle infielder, and it just never happened in any way. And and then I think you saw them get desperate. Then they start trying to get them to play outfield positions, and it just nothing ever clicked. And it's almost like he's like one of those, how do I say this nicely? He's like a 4A player. He's like good enough to be in AAA, but not ever be in the conversation to be productive at the major league level either.
Yeah. It's a shame because I feel like if the timing of his ascent was when we had just a terrible player development system. And I really wonder if you could move what he was doing at that time to the player development system we have now, what would have happened? I mean, it's obviously it's a huge hypothetical and what if question here, but I wonder if if that would have made any difference. I don't think, I truly don't think that the position moving around had much to do with it. I mean, these guys think when you're playing, you usually are moving around anyway when you're younger. So I don't know if that had a lot to do with it. I just think that he had holes in the swing and they just couldn't correct it. And I wonder if, what they have now would have suited him better. But now it's probably too late.
It's way too late. All right. Over under 90 wins.
So I think I saw earlier in the offseason, I think the over under was like 86.5. And I almost felt like what we were talking about earlier, I said there's wins left on the table, I think, last year. I mean, if this team is healthy and and we get the full season of Turner playing well, we get Harper, at one position, we get Schwarber off of his, give his knees a rest. Bryson Stott kind of broke out last year. We have a lot of potential here. I think 90 wins. I think under 90 wins would almost be a disappointment. I don't think 100. I don't think we're in the 100 win conversation right now, like the Braves or Dodgers. But I think like 92, 93 wins is totally reasonable.
Yeah, that to me, I think you look at the whole roster construction in terms of, you move Harper to first base. I think that makes you better defensively at first base. The defense that you got, from Castellanos last year was really, really above what I would have expected for him.
Yep.
You've got Rojas who can get to every gap, so you're better there defensively. The moving Schwarber to DH full time and getting him out of the outfield is going to make you better defensively across the board in the outfield. Bohm, for all the struggles that Bohm just butchered balls early on in his career, really, really kind of stepped up his game playing third base. I think there are wins on the table defensively that you're going to be able to stay in games longer. And the longer that you can stay competitive in the games, the more opportunities you give this offense to kind of figure out a way to score runs, because there are runs to be had all up and down this lineup. I think what you saw towards the end of the season was really just an aberration of every single person pressing for the opportunity to do something and no one really just letting it come to them and kind of relying on the skill level that they have. So I think this is the year that you really get the opportunity to see all of it put together and all of it kind of put themselves in a position. I think if you're in that 90 win conversation, you're in the position to be probably where you were last year. If you want to try to catch the Braves, you're going to have to be sniffing 100 wins. Because I think that's where they are. That's where they are offensively. That's where they are on their pitching staff. Now, who's to say? The position that I'm not sure about is the back end of this bullpen, because you lose Kimbrel. Kimbrel goes to the Orioles. So I'm curious to see. I'm really hoping that it's not, a bullpen by committee, that I really hope that they figure out roles early, that they commit to those guys, and really try to find opportunities for those guys to fill their roles, figure out what they're supposed to be doing, rather than 4 guys worrying about, who's going into the 7th, who's going in the 8th, who's closing. Figure out those roles. But where are you at with the back end of the bullpen? Because that's the one part that I'm I want them to figure that out, so that by the time, September, October roll around, that everybody knows exactly what they're doing.
So I like the pieces we have. Now losing Kimbrel is actually going to be a big deal. I know, because of the way he pitched at the end of the postseason, people are sour on him, and he started out the year terrible. But after he gave up that grand slam to Max Muncy in, what was that, May, I think, he was awesome. I mean, he pitched great. So we do have a bit of a hole there. But now Kerkering, poor guy, gets called up in September. and is asked to pitch huge leverage situations in the playoffs, right? Loses the feel for his slider. So I really think, he has some major league experience, some like getting thrown in the fire major league experience. So I think he can be a decent replacement for Kimbrel, and I think at a way younger and cheaper cost too. So I like the pieces we have. I think though, just knowing how Rob Thompson does things, I don't think we're getting roles, which just seems to be his way of doing it. And I think it's going to have to all fall out. So like you look at stuff, right? Jose Alvarado's the guy, right? He's probably our guy with the best stuff. But I don't think Thompson likes to, say he's going to be my ninth inning guy when he might need, if there's a bases loaded situation in the seventh inning, he has to come in and pitch a seventh, and then he can pitch a few outs in the eighth. I just think that's the way Thompson does it. And that's why I think the Phillies aren't going out and getting one of these closers, right? Like, Dombrowski may have said, hey, Rob, what do you think about getting one of these guys? And he's like, well, that's fine, but is he going to be okay pitching the eighth inning? Guys like Josh Hader are never going to do that. Hader's, he's a bit of a prima donna, I think. So I just think it's because of Thompson's managing style. And I know it's one of those things where it either works out and it's like, oh, Thompson's a genius, or it backfires and everyone's like, oh, he's the stupidest manager of all time. And I think, it's somewhere in between, right? I think it all depends because, he knows the situation he's looking for, and then it's up to those guys to execute in that situation. So unfortunately, I don't think you're going to get your set defined roles. I think it's going to be, you have three solid lefties, which is really nice, right? You could pitch Strahm, Soto, or Alvarado in basically any inning from 6 on. I think is fair. Then you have your solid. Now Sir Anthony needs to get his control down a little bit because he was not great last year with that. But you have Sir Anthony, you have Jeff Hoffman, you have Kerkering now with their stuff. I mean, I really like what we have in the bullpen. And I actually think it's one of those things where now if they don't care and it's not like a head thing for them with like where they have to be pitching and they're okay coming whenever, then I'm okay with what Thompson's doing with it. And I think most of these guys are young enough to the point where it's like they're kind of like they've been in this situation now where it's kind of like, all right, hey, you need to be ready to go in the seventh. You need to be ready to go in, pitch 2 batters in the eighth and then see what happens here. So I think it'll be okay. I see what you mean. I like knowing who's going to be coming in, but I think it gives flexibility though, not having those defined roles. If you see what I'm saying there, but it's a double-edged sword. I think
I do. I like what you said though. I like the part where you talk about like if they're cool with it, then I'm cool with it. So if they don't have a problem with it, then that's just a personal thing with me. That's just something I'm going to have to get over.
Yeah.
But for me, like I like the idea of the depth that they have. I just want them to figure out whatever makes it work. So if they're going to use the season to kind of figure out leverage spots, like and we saw Rob Thompson do that. Now I know Rob has gotten a lot of criticism in this offseason about his decisions during the playoffs. Some of those he's walked back. Some of those he's also doubled down on. Does that make you hesitant for him in the playoffs at all?
No, because I think, like I said, he's obviously not going to change his managing style, right? He's gotten the Phillies to 2 deep playoff runs in a row, and again, it's like, especially with bullpen situations, and especially when it's magnified like that, right? You're rolling the dice. I mean, the guy's either going to execute or he's not, and I don't necessarily think it's the manager's call all the time. Like, I'm not saying it's not the manager's call, but it's not up to him how the pitcher performs. Like Kerkering, like I said, I'm going to go back to that example. He pitched in every level of baseball last year, right? He comes up in September, pitches, I think, 3 or 4 games in the regular season. And now you have him in a situation in the postseason, the NLCS, and he completely loses feel for his slider. I think at that point, he needed to come out because he obviously was not throwing the fastball. You can't be walking guys and just giving free passes. That's a situation where Thompson could have controlled it, I think. But when you go in and you're saying, okay, I need Craig Kimbrel, who has been, he for the most part reliable for most of the season. he's the guy. It's up to him to execute at that point, right? I mean, I don't know if it's Thompson's fault to go back to him. I mean, what are the odds a guy's going to have, 2 blow-up implosions a couple days in a row? Like, it just doesn't really happen that way. So I don't necessarily think it's all Thompson. I mean, some of it I know he gets called out for, and some of it deservedly so. But I think you could say that with any coach in any sport, right? I mean, we see what's happening with the Eagles, right? At the end of that season, how much of the coaching staff is under the microscope. We saw it with Girardi. We saw it with Doc Rivers. Like, it's one of those things where the coaching is always going to be under scrutiny. And, ultimately, sometimes they make the right decision. Sometimes they make the wrong decision. Sometimes they make the right decision. The players don't execute. Sometimes they make the wrong decision. The players do execute. It's such a crapshoot where, I think at this point, but I trust the guys that we have in this bullpen. I mean, just like the starting rotation, the bullpen is getting all these accolades on all these different sites too. I mean, maybe not quite as highly as the rotation, but there's pieces there that are really, really good and can be really, really good. So I love where our pitching's at right now. It's just a matter of, there's going to be guys who go out and just don't have their stuff that day. And what it is what it is. You move on, you fix it, see what happens, tomorrow.
I love that. Well, listen, let's take a commercial break. On the back end, we'll talk about the spring training game this afternoon. We'll talk about the possibility of some expansion teams. And where those expansion things could be located. And then we'll break down all things Philly. So we'll be back. Check it after these commercial breaks.
Von C. Brewing Company is a 20-barrel, 16,000-square-foot microbrewery with a 2,500-square-foot tasting room, including a spacious outside beer garden in Norristown, PA, in the heart of Montgomery County. The Von C family is part of the family that started C. Schmidt and Son Brewing in 1860. Stop in Wednesday through Sunday and taste a variety of draft and 16-ounce cans of originally brewed beer and tell them the Drunk on Broad crew sent you. Von C Brewing is located at 1210 Stanbridge Street, Suite 300 in Norristown. Cheers.
Team Clicks are the only glasses for real sports fans. With interchangeable arms, you can support all of your favorite teams, or even make and create custom options as well. These die-hard sports fans have realized that sports fans needed something other than face paint to show their love and passion for their teams. Go to teamclicks.com/DOB and show your love for your hometown team.
La Torrent's curated collection of men's and women's watches is a perfect investment that lasts for years to come and fits perfectly with your every outfit and style. Our range of classic watches aren't just a great, perfect formal and casual accessory, but a time machine that takes you back to memories. Explore our collection of timeless watches that can reflect your taste, personality, and personal style. Our exclusive collection of carefully curated, affordable luxury watches is what you need to make a personalized style statement. You can take pride in your prized possession, handing it over to the next generations as your most loved asset that they can also own and display with the same pride. These high-quality pieces stand the test of time, giving exceptional value and return on your investment. Go to la-touraine.com and use code DOB at checkout and get 10% off.
If you're looking for unique sports apparel, check out Streaker Sports. They've dug deep into the archives and have brought back some incredible defunct team logos and have even created entire defunct league collections. They also have collections paying homage to sports culture, including the Miracle on Ice, Slap Shot, Caddyshack, the Mighty Ducks, and even have a license with Wiffle Ball and USA Hockey. Only for Drunk on Broad listeners, use code BROAD at checkout to get 10% off anything at streakersports.com. Again, that's 10% off anything at streakersports.com with discount code BROAD.
Hey, listen, before we go any further, I'm going to give a shout out. We got a new apparel company that we're also partnering with that's a little bit more local. Partnered with Philly Drinkers Apparel, which is they've got some really cool, authentic Philly stuff. They've got everything from hats to sweatshirts, t-shirts, The designs are really unique, really local. But if you use the code DrunkOnBroad15, you're going to get a special discount at the checkout. And they actually, I ordered some stuff. I got some stuff. It came in. It's really, really good quality stuff. And they have a baseball box that comes with a hat, a couple T-shirts, a couple keychains, a couple stickers for like $20. So they got some really cool stuff. So go there, check them out, use the code. We got a really cool opportunity for you to support your local pod. I know that's in the social media feed right now with everything that's going on in the last couple days with all the how do I say this kindly, the large conglomerate of what I think is being exposed as legitimate Philly sports media. So go out there, support your local pods, support your local apparel companies. But Philly Drinkers is a cool company we're going to start working with. So go check them out. It's but Eric, all things spring training. So I'm going to pull up the spring training. While I'm pulling that up, talk to me about what you love about spring training, because it's a good time of year.
So the first thing is just like, it's kind of like the first, sign that summer's coming. Obviously, it gets to see baseball again, which is great, but also just knowing like, oh, hey, look, I can see palm trees. I see sunshine, where it's like here, okay, it's in the 40s and cloudy. But just knowing that it's coming up. My other favorite thing is seeing like the younger guys, right? Spring training stats do not matter. I don't care what Nola's ERA is when he comes out of spring training. I don't care what Bryce Harper's batting average is when he comes out of spring training. Just get the work in that you need to get in. That's all that matters, right? But seeing the younger guys, that I think does matter, because now you're seeing them, number one, on a larger scale, but you're also seeing what they can do. So, and you don't get to see them all the time, right? So seeing the younger guys, like last year when Andrew Payne, I know, touchy subject right now, but when Andrew Painter pitched that first game, I was so excited to watch that spring training game, and then so devastated shortly thereafter. But we'll get to see Mick Abel pitch this year. We'll get to see some of these guys that you don't get to see very often. So that's a really cool thing. Again, I don't think this guy is necessarily in contention for a roster spot anytime soon. But Carlos De La Cruz is just a massive human being, and I love watching him hit baseballs 600 feet at Baker Ballpark in March. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, that's fun to me. That's fun. So there's so many fun things in spring training.
Listen,
I don't even know
hopefully he becomes the second De La Cruz in Major League Baseball to kind of explode onto the scene. He really is on a secondary level. At the minor league level, is a really, really fun player to watch. And he is truly a massive human being. But you're right. I think the thing that I like now, you're getting an opportunity to see the guys that you don't normally see, other than if you're like us and you follow like every minor league social media feed for the teams that are in this organization. When you get to a point in the game where the numbers are all above 50, that's when you know that you're getting to see guys that you don't normally get a chance to see. But even when you look at the guys that are going to play today, right? You're going to see Whit Merrifield play a little bit. You're going to see guys that are familiar. So you're going to see Rojas and Sosa. You're going to see Cody Clemens. You're going to see Weston Wilson. You're going to see, a guy that they brought in middle of the year last year. You're going to see Castro play. You're also going to see a guy we just talked about, Scotty Kingery, is going to play left field. I'm sure he's going to get his chance of opportunities to play. Really just excited to watch baseball. Just turn it on, even if it's on in the background. Watch the first couple innings and then just have it on. Just the sounds of baseball. Is just really, really something to be excited about. And shout out to our fired up friends at the Bell Smashers. They they do a great job putting out the graphics throughout the year, throughout the Phillies season. So we got their lineup card up right now, but they're also a great Phillies pod to follow. So go check them out too.
Yeah, the lineup looks good. Just from not good, you know what I mean, but exciting. I like that we get to see Merrifield right off the bat. Rojas, they kind of said it's his job to lose, right? He has to earn it, but it's his job to lose. Obviously, we're going to see Sosa. I mean, those three guys are realistically the only guys that we're going to see in the major leagues on opening day. I don't foresee Cody Clemens getting up there. Weston Wilson, maybe same thing like he did last year. If someone's hurt, come up.
Right.
David Dahl, I love that minor league signing there. He definitely has some potential from I remember him with the Rockies. I know he's been a couple other places since then, and I know he's kind of fallen off a little bit, but there's potential there. And again, just another good depth move, but again, another one that probably pushes Kingery further down the depth chart there. So
the thing that I loved seeing in the offseason was now I do have to, kind of choose my words carefully because I don't want to feel like I'm talking about the Ben Simmons off season, the off season highlights. It was encouraging to see the work that Rojas was putting in, at least the stuff that we saw on social media in terms of, you saw a little bit of body transformation. You saw him, look a little bit bigger, look a little bit stronger, but you also saw a little work with the bat path in order for him to maybe, and I think maybe that's where having a vet like Whit Merrifield maybe helps him, think about putting the ball in play more and be creative in how he can put the ball in play. Because he's a guy that, like, if he's going to, and with this lineup, is going to bat at the back end of this lineup on a regular basis. Him being on base when you got guys that are going to come up at the top of the lineup, when you talk about having guys like Schwarber and Turner and Harper and Bohm and Real Muto and Castellan, like having those guys on at the back end of that lineup, getting, having Stott, him getting on base, having Rojas on base, those guys, those are game-changing plays when you can get those guys on base with those guys coming up to be able to have the opportunity to drive in runs.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, Rojas, his batting average wise, had a pretty good regular season. We know how what went in the playoffs, but realistically, I think a lot of it is just he's got some speed, so he beats the ball into the ground and just kind of beats out some throws sometimes. But again, if he can hit at a 230 clip, get on base, and that's the thing. I know we've talked about this before, but this whole Schwarber leading off thing, you have him hitting 9, he gets on base. Visions of some third inning home runs, 2-run home runs now with Schwarber now hitting with guys on base with some speed in front of him too. But yeah, I like what he's doing. I think he recognizes, hey, I need to get better in this. And that was really the knock on him, as a prospect the entire time, right? It's like, all right, dude plays insane defense, but his hitting has always been a little suspect. So I think it's unreasonable to think that, he's going to be, a silver slugger or anything like that. But just being a serviceable hitter, putting the ball in play, making things happen, that's all you can ask for from your number 9 hitter. And then just let the big bats in the lineup do their thing. But yeah, I like what we're seeing from Rojas so far. And I really hope he does, show us in spring training that, he's started, a little bit better bat path, hit the ball better, make better contact. I really want to see that from him.
And I know there's a lot of conversation about Schwarber being at the top of the lineup, and he really truly is your non-traditional leadoff hitter. But when you look at the splits, and I'm trying to pull up the numbers as we're talking, but like if you look at the splits of when their record and their success rate at driving in runs when he's at the time when he's batting leadoff and when he's not, they win at almost like a clip above 600.
Yeah.
But when he's not, it's below it's like well below 500.
It is below. I remember seeing that. I knew the exact stat you're talking about. I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And yeah, I mean, and I think that was the biggest thing last year, right? So he started off the year not leading off, and then eventually they put him there. And I don't know if how much of it actually has to do with that or what. I know a lot of people want to see a more traditional leadoff hitter. I wouldn't, and again, I wouldn't be opposed to it if we see success with it, right? I know a lot of people don't like having a guy that, last year hit 197 and kind of clogs the bases up as your leadoff hitter. And I totally understand that opinion. But to me, it's like, hey, it's working. And it was a point I made last year when this was like a really big hot button issue was that, now with the DH and you don't have pitchers hitting, you have these back end guys who can get on base. And really the only time he's really leading off the game is your first bat. Most of the time he's not going to be leading off an inning. Right. And if he does lead off with a home run, well, hey, you just put your team up ahead. So again, I see both sides of the argument. Whatever Thompson decides to do there, whatever works, I'm okay with. I think Bryson Stott is like a prototypical type leadoff hitter. He sees a lot of pitches, fouls balls off, works good at bats, and hits for average. I like that. So if I could see Stott maybe getting some attention there. But again, but
to that point,
yeah,
that's why I like him at the back end of that lineup.
Yeah, it gives you something.
He's a guy that he's a guy that like you wouldn't expect him to come up and have a 10, 12 pitch at bat. But if you're trying to get a guy to get this, if you're trying to get the pitch count up, what better opportunity that you have than to have Stott lead off an inning where he's got the pitch count in the double digits before before his at bat ends. And then you're looking at getting, because you're going to have to face three guys. So if you're facing Stott and then, Rojas and then Schwarber, right now you're getting Schwarber up with a guy who, has already thrown maybe pitches in the 20s, and you're giving him a better opportunity to be successful because you put a guy like that at the back end of the lineup.
Oh yeah, no, I see. And again, I see both sides of that. I am a proponent of Schwarber hitting leadoff, but I can understand why people would disagree with that. But yeah, so I really don't know what the correct answer is here. I think, lineup construction is one of those things where sometimes you just got to go with like who's hot, right? I mean, last year we saw it. Castellanos hitting fourth sometimes, but then he went that little funk. They moved him down to 7, and he starts hitting again. So, it's really one of those things where sometimes you just got to go with what's working at the time. And I think in the last couple seasons, what was working was Schwarber leading off. So until that starts to hurt us, then I'm okay with him hitting leadoff. It's just, I know it's very untraditional. I know it's not what everyone likes to see, but you can't argue with the success it's had.
I'm not going to argue with you, man. It's a good debate to have. But when you look at the team success with him, I think the analytics, this is the part of the analytics that I don't really argue with, because if you're talking about a guy like that has the opportunity to have the power and the explosion that he has in that lineup, that's a guy that you want to get more at bats. So the closer you can get to the top of the lineup where he's going to get the most opportunities to be successful, and now he's not going to be a negative in the field. Now that you're giving him the opportunity to just bat, just focus on that, I think you're also going to see a better product, because he's not going to have and I'm going to put stress in air quotes here, right? We're talking about baseball, but like the stress of playing in the field, right? And now that he can just focus on that, right? He goes up there for his at bat. When his at bat is done, he goes back in the cage. He can work on that stuff in between at bats and be able to come out well rested, rather than having to go out and play the field every day.
Yeah, I mean, I even read a quote earlier this week where he was saying, his knees were pretty bad last season. And he said basically coming into this spring training, he feels, so much better already. So I just think taking that pressure, and I think we will see him in the field occasionally, because they're going to want to get other guys, a rest too. So I think he will play left field occasionally. I'm just hoping it's under, 30 or 40 games. But actually, it should definitely be lower than that. But anyway, I think that will help him at the plate too, because his knees are going to be healthier. He's going to feel better physically. And I know they're working on, I read something from, I think it was Matt Gill earlier this week too, where they're working with him on not trying to just pull the ball so much and use more of the field. So obviously his power numbers would go down a little bit, but that average they could go up. Give me like a 220 season from Schwarber batting average wise, and give me like the 40 home runs. That's like that. I think that's the most ideal situation we can ask for.
I love that. I love that. Anything Phillies you want to talk about before we jump into something fun?
Other than just waiting on this Zach Wheeler extension news.
Oh, that's right.
That's a big thing.
We didn't talk about any extensions. The Wheeler extension. I know that we're talking about the Harper extension.
Yeah, that one is very divisive.
Harper wants to play until he's 55.
Yeah. The Zach Wheeler one, I don't think there's any controversy there. Give him whatever he wants and make him stay a Philly until he retires. He's just been so good since he came. I remember when we signed him thinking like, okay, I like him. I forget who was the other big free agent that year. I think it was like Garrett. I think it was the Garrett Cole year. There were some other big ones there too. The Phillies never tied in.
Was that a Corbin? Was that who's the guy?
I think that might have been Patrick Corbin year. Yeah,
Patrick Corbin. And they were kind of.
But I just remember saying like, I think so. Yeah. But I just remember watching Wheeler with the Mets, and he was always hurt. And I'm just like he doesn't do much for me. But the price they got him at, I'm like, okay, add starting pitching depth, can't hurt. And man, what a contract that is turned into. Like, he is a top 5 starter in baseball probably right now. And the contract he is on is so team friendly. But I think, he's a little bit old. He's a little bit older than Nola. But I still think give him, the Phillies like doing this, right? Bringing down the annual average value for cap or luxury tax purposes, but give him 5 years, give him, the 200 or 180 million, whatever we're going to give him, and just get him locked up, because you're going to pay a ton more if he hits free agency, because he is going to be the top pitcher in free agency pretty much. Although I think Corbin Burns is a free agent next year too, but he'll be up there anyway.
Yeah. I think that's got to be. I'm sure that's got to be at the top of their priority list, and I know they're probably just waiting on trying to figure out the numbers, because that's wanting him to be here the rest of his career. He's obviously played way above that contract. But I'm with you. I'm with you on it. It's a no-brainer at this point. The Harper extension, I think that's just, to me, that's just a manifestation of him just wanting to just cement the fact that he's not going anywhere more than like he feels like he's undervalued. He really truly feels like he's a guy that just kind of figured out that this is home. And just wants there to just be almost no conversation. And it's like, I'm not bringing it up because I want to get paid more. I'm wanting to bring it up because I just want to just know that I'm not going anywhere. And it does make me feel really good that like what he said when he signed here, that like this is a place he wants to be for a long time. He intentionally put the no trade, that kicker in to the contract early on right away. And he just feels like he's a guy that, like, when he said he wanted to raise his kids here, he really kind of meant it. And he really feels like this is home. So on that level, I feel like they'll figure something out. I don't know if it's going to be now or in the next couple of years. But
take the time, get Wheeler done first.
They do have some other priorities in place first.
Yeah.
But,
I love Bryce, but we could wait like 3 more years on this.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah, we got plenty of time to figure out. Before we get into something fun, can we talk about the uniforms?
Yeah, they're weird, aren't they?
The nameplates on the uniforms, the white pants that are almost see-through. It's just bad. Can we just, is there a way to like back out and go back to Majestic and just like it's just bad. Like Eric, when I saw the nameplates look like the little kids jersey that you buy at the store, or they look like the Bobo jersey that you buy from another country.
Yeah. I saw the nameplates. I saw the jerseys. I'm like, oh, that's terrible. I saw the pants, and I'm like, this is borderline offensive. I don't know if you
really
or anyone
bad.
has seen some of the pictures and memes going around on Twitter right now about these pants, but it's like, what are they doing? And enough players are complaining right now where I'm hoping Nike fanatics are like, okay, maybe we make an adjustment here. But I mean, like, it's an embarrassment. You are a $100 billion organization, and with the MLB I'm talking about. And you have like the cheesiest looking uniforms and like see-through, pants now. It's like, what are we doing here? I know so a lot of players have been vocal about it. So maybe that'll change things. But it's like, come on, just
What was the quote from Trey Turner? We all know that they're terrible, or something like that.
Yeah, something like, I forget the exact quote, but yeah, it was something along.
We all hate them. Something like it.
It just looks it looks really, really bad. And now seeing, like, we haven't seen the City Connect ones come out yet, like the official version. We've seen some different versions of what we think it might be, what got leaked. But this to me says, like, there should be also a spring training uniform.
Yeah.
Like have there can be a separate spring training uniform, the regular season uniforms, the home and aways, the alternates. I'm sure they wouldn't have a problem marketing and selling 5 different versions of a jersey. But like, this is the perfect opportunity. The red jersey with the Phillies, red jersey, great pants, wear them all spring. And then go into your home and aways and your City Connects. But come on, you got to be able to figure that one out. All right, fun topic. Here we go. The MLB is expected to expand to 32 teams in the coming years. What are the 2 cities? What are some cities that you would love to see expansion? Because I got one that feels like a no-brainer.
So the ones I've been reading, Nashville.
That's the one for me.
Yeah, Nashville I think would be a really cool one. I've seen Salt Lake City. I don't know what the market is like out there. I mean, you have the Jazz, but you don't really have much else in terms other than, like, college sports out there. But I guess they've done their market research. It almost sounds like, so I know Vegas was one of the ones they were talking about, but it almost sounds like at some point that could just be the A's moving there. So I don't think that's going to be an expansion type thing anymore. I kind of forget what the other ones were, because honestly, I got to be honest, I'm kind of not a fan of the expansion.
Okay. Do you feel like it's going to water down?
Yeah, I do. I already said earlier in this show that I think starting pitching is already something that a lot of teams are struggling with, and adding 2 more teams. So now you basically need to find, a roughly 10 more serviceable starting pitchers that are going to be taken off the market. I don't know. I mean, obviously, like, I'm going to still watch baseball. I'm not going to, but I just think it does water it down a little bit. And I don't know. I did see some interesting division realignments, though. And again, this is all speculation. It came out last year. There were some. I saw just some that I don't even think was like a reliable source, but just someone just having fun on Twitter with it. That could be kind of fun, but also could, depending on how it works, could mess up some pretty cool rivalries. Like the one I saw would have the Phillies and Braves in different divisions, which in terms of making, winning the division would be easier for the Phillies. But it's been a fun rivalry now for a while. And especially since both teams are, pretty good, I think that would water it down a little bit. But again, I mean, I think Nashville will be a cool one. What were some of the other ones that you were thinking, or what was?
All right, so Nashville to me is the one that really kind of aligns with, it's a really exciting market to be in, right? You already have the Titans in Nashville. You've had a lot of success with minor league baseball in Nashville. And the city is a really exciting destination that I think would entice a lot of people to travel there to see their team. So I love the idea of Nashville. The other one is a nostalgic one.
I think you got to bring back Montreal. I think you got to bring back.
That's the other one I was thinking. Yes, I would absolutely love that. I would love that.
I think to me, you bring back the Expos, you bring back the uniforms. You could really reinvigorate a fan base there that was really supportive when their team was good. And if you look at some of those Expos teams when they were good, they had tremendous rosters. But I think just from a uniform standpoint, I would love to see them bring back the Expos uniforms. Some of the other ones, some of the other cities, not really super excited about. Like I know I'm looking at someone here brought up New Orleans. New Orleans could be an exciting team or an exciting place to visit. I don't know how much support you would get if you had an MLB franchise there.
Yeah.
Salt Lake City is another one that you brought up, but I don't necessarily. I feel like it's like putting a team in the middle of nowhere. The other one that I thought was exciting, and it's a place where we've seen some other leagues go, is maybe putting a team in Mexico City. I think the idea of maybe kind of expanding up, below, into Central America. That's a place where the NFL has had games that have been really successful. That the passion that you see when they get behind the soccer teams that are playing in Mexico City. I think that to me would be the other would be the other place that I would look in terms of being able to kind of fit into an already established market where that the teams will be backed with a lot of support. And you wouldn't necessarily have to do a lot of infrastructure. The other ones, I feel like you've had minor league baseball in some of those other cities, and they're like, eh.
Yeah.
And I think what you said about Las Vegas, I think Las Vegas is one that's a team that eventually you're going to see the A's kind of move there. They've already kind of had a lot of those conversations in place. So that to me seems inevitable that you're going to see that. And talk about the city of Oakland, losing the Raiders, the A's, and the Warriors all within a what will probably be a less than 10-year stretch is just crazy, crazy stuff. But
unfortunately,
yep. Eric, any final thoughts on the way out here?
Other than just the fact that I'm so happy that spring training's back. Let's see Colby Allard go a solid 2 innings. Just give me 2 strikeouts. Maybe only give up a hit or so. Let's see Whit Merrifield lead off single. Let's do that.
Nice.
Let's get things started on the right track here.
All things exciting. We really appreciate everybody tuning in and everybody watching. And we'll try to get back at this, Eric, every couple of weeks. We'll check in with spring training and get ready for the season. But we're looking for a solid start to the spring. So we'll be back. But Eric's got some great work. You got your work on that ball. That ball's out of here. You got your stuff on fired up. So we'll look forward. Shout out to another one of our Drunk on Broad co-hosts, Mark, who's going to be covering the Union with the Union credentials. So look for his work coming out there. It'll be it's an exciting time. So we'll check in with everybody. And Eric, I feel like that as the first show leading into spring training, I feel like there's only one way to end the show. Got to end the show with Uncle Jack.
Hey, listen to this guy. Tell me how you're feeling here. You're screaming.
I am stoked, baby.
You're screaming like it's still the game going on.
We're talking about the fightings here. The fightings. Said.
This is the Broad Street Line, where Philly sports fans leave all of their sports hot takes. Call 267-405-3062 and show us your passion for Philly sports. Don't forget to tune in every Wednesday at 8:30 when we listen to your live reactions to the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat.
The swing of the miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.